Shalom everyone again. This is my second video edition for my initial topic speaking about where is the Temple Mount in reality. Yes, there's a big ongoing debate, both historical and theologically, going on in Eretz Israel. Okay, and it's common topic of interest around a typical Kiddush meal and the most observant Jewish homes. They're talking about that. Everyone in their heart would love to have the temple rebuilt. Some people believe, the chicken before the egg or the egg before the chicken. Some people are waiting on the Mashiach to build the third temple according to Ezekiel's blueprints, his visionary statement for the future. Other people believe that if you build it, he will come. So some people believe that if you build the temple now, then the Mashiach will immediately come. Regardless of these chicken for the egg arguments, remember, Ezra saw the devastation of Yerushalyim, and namely the temple area in his time, and that was back in the time of King Cyrus II, I believe. And that was a long time ago. That was BCE period. Nehemiah continued the Nehemiah project essentially by solidifying Yerushalayim's boundaries, the walls, and namely continuing to cleanse the temple area, resuming a resumption of animal sacrifices, a burnt offering. These are holy commandments. You read the 5 books of Moshe, you read in Leviticus, it's very detailed, very meticulous about these covenants, about establishing a worship environment of holiness before Hashem. Is actually the temple is a transmuter device between what's finite and what's infinite. I've talked about this a little bit before. Okay, a lot of people get confused of rationale behind burnt offerings and everything else. Most of the burnt offerings were for incidental sins by happenstance, sins that were accidentally committed. But there were other, once a year, there were Yom Kippur burnt offerings that were more significant for the sins of a nation. Okay, I won't get into that because they're not germane to this discussion. What I want to speak about is Har HaBayit and the Kotel that we have by tradition. We've been celebrating since probably I'd say 1100 or so. We've been worshiping as observant Jews. People have been massing there by the thousands. I think there are more Jews at the Kotel in Eretz Israel and Yerushalayim this day and time than 5 years ago, and they're increasing. There's a lot of talk about going beyond the Kotel and taking our Hanukkah menorah, for instance, and setting it up before and say Shema. But you'll be arrested if you try to pray, or if people think you're praying, and if you don't to stop that behavior, or if you bring a siddur or holy document. Sometimes they tell you to take your kippah off if it offends the Grand Mufti in Jordan. Again, that's not germane. That's all I'm going to say about that. But the main focal point of the temple site, okay, King Solomon's temple existed approximately 2,900 something years ago. Okay, King Herod the Great built the temple. That second temple era was roughly 100 BCE to about 70 CE when it was destroyed by Flavius Titus. Okay, so either way, when you build a temple, it has to be against certain halakha standards. It has to be against code, and that code is halakha standards. We base all of this on the Torah, the 5 books of Moshe, what it says about the Mishkan, and about how burnt offerings should be selected, and about the kosher animals versus non-kosher animals, about the priestly garments, about the Kohen Gadol. But main thing here is the certification of kosher water. What am I talking about? I'm talking about mikveh. Mikveh, okay? Mikveh means that it's primarily 2 salt water sources. Primarily, it's a natural spring of water that comes up from the earth unhindered, okay? So if you go to a brook or a river or something like that, as long as it's flowing and you see water flowing, you see some movement in the water, you know it's fresh. I'm not talking about a draining ditch, folks. I'm not talking about runoff rainwater. I'm talking about a natural spring that comes up from the earth, then empties out and forms a path in the landscape or whatever as a creek, a branch, a nook, or whatever, okay? In fact, in Fairfax County, near my home, there's a place called Acontic Branch. It's actually a natural waterway. It was created from a river that is actually emptying into this natural branch, unhindered by man. It's completely natural. It's not man-made, okay? A man-made pond or something that is not does not have a natural flow of water, that kind of thing, that does not qualify as a mikveh. However, if you have a large cistern and it's made of the correct materials, okay, the correct materials, and it's certified kosher for that too. If it is rainwater, if it's snow, even hailstones, okay, melting and things of that nature, that can qualify as mikveh water as well. What is the purpose of mikveh water in respect to a temple? Well, it's everything, okay? It's everything. Did you know the construction of a mikveh is very expensive? Before you even consider building a synagogue, you have to establish the mikveh for an Orthodox synagogue. Some people even sell Torah scrolls to raise funds for the mikveh. So you build the mikveh first and then the synagogue around the mikveh. That's how it goes. It is extremely complicated. Believe me, I was reading the Halakha, I was reading the standards in the Midrash. Ramban talks a lot about this, okay? Back to the Temple Mount, Har HaBayit. King Herod's temple was supposedly built on this 40-acre piece of real estate, Temple Mount, okay? Everyone knows where it's at. It's just outside of the old city of David, okay? It's in the more modern, rebuilt areas of Yerushalyim that occurred after 135 CE when the Romans, Hadrian took over the entire area, renamed it, renamed the land, renamed the city, and rebuilt Jerusalem from the ground up because it was completely destroyed, okay? No one knew where the Holy of Holies were. No one knew where the temple was. I'm not going to go back to my first video about this too much, The Crusaders did the first crusade in 1099. Crusaders went up to the Dome of the Rock that was owned at Temple Mount even during that time and yanked off the sickle and then wired up a temporary cross and called it the House of God, okay? And when word got out, the rest of Europe, everyone identified that place as Temple Mount, okay? Whatever you think, this is history. Okay, how do you get water to Temple Mount today? Well, there are aquifers, if I'm pronouncing the name correct, canals, essentially. These were built during the time of King Herod the Great. You have to get water to that area. Jerusalem is a very dry and arid place. As you know, unless it's winter or early spring, you don't have a lot of rainfall on a monthly basis. Rain is a commodity, is a rare commodity, and is a blessing. It's raining a lot right now in Tel Aviv. But anyway, you have to have rainwater to fill up cisterns that you reserve for mikveh waters. Jews even do this today. Even non-Jews do this when they have a problem with health code issues with drinking water as non-portable water. They collect rainwater in these large cisterns or whatever. You can only collect so much rainwater in the winter season because it doesn't rain enough in the summer, and evaporation and everything else, that water goes away. You cannot even, if you are a traveler or a Jew or a Gentile and you want to go up to Temple Mount, folks, you have to be ceremonially bathed. You have to be immersed in a mikveh, especially problematic if you have the flu or cold or some other disease like that. In Bethsaida and to the south in Bethlehem, the Pool of Solomon. These were popular during King Herod's time, and this is where the travelers, the Jews, for the festivals, the high holidays, they would go to the north. They would go to Bethsaida, and to the south they would go to the Pool of Siloam and close to Bethlehem. This is where the aquifers were built during King Herod's time. During King Solomon's time, 2,900 years ago, they had pools of Solomon. These actually were used for essentially Solomon's wives, okay, for bathing and stuff like that. The main water source in Yerushalayim is the Gihon River. The Gihon River, I'm sorry. The Gihon River It's a natural spring. It's a siphon spring. It shoots up 400 feet from underneath the earth, straight up, almost at a 90-degree vertical way, straight up. And this is where a lot of people are arguing. They said that in order to use that water as a natural mikvah, you have to utilize the natural flow of the water. You cannot alter it, okay? If, for instance, you have water shooting up vertically at 90 degrees, if you want it to empty into some sort of collection basin, it has to be a very gentle slope. It cannot be at a sharp angle like 45 degrees, 180 degrees, and so on. It cannot be at the sharp angle. It has to be at a natural flow, and you have to benefit from gravity. Natural, 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 natural. I want to emphasize that, okay? That is extremely problematic if King Herod built the second temple on today's Temple Mount as far as the natural water. If Romans built it, if Romans built it under King Herod's command or management, whatever, they weren't thinking about mikveh, folks, unless King Herod was thinking about it, unless he was monitoring that. I have no idea. The Ottomans rebuilt these aquifers in early about 1901 in Judea or Palestine during that time. Again, you have to have water. You have to have water to live in an arid Israel, like in arid lands like that in Judea. But again, the Gihon River is the only natural water source. It's in the old city of David, close to the tomb of David, or the tomb of the kings of Judah. It's believed by some Jews, and a lot of archaeologists with PhDs, smarter than this guy, believe that the Holy of Holies, the center point of King Solomon's temple, was actually in that area, closer to this old city of David, closer to the Gihon River, and close to the tomb of David, as it's known today. Huge excavations in that area today. If you go there, you'll see it's all roped off, and people are excavating. They're finding fascinating things there. They're finding conch shells, the old snail that was driven to extinction by the Romans. It had a blue pigment in its blood. I don't want to get gross, but it was blue pigment. That's what we use for tzatzit. Well, we don't even know what that blue color is anymore, because that snail, that marine animal, is not alive anymore. It's extinct. But we found shells of that. We found cisterns going all the way back to King Solomon time period in these excavations in the city of David. So I just want to talk a little bit about mikvah, understand what it is, and more importantly, what it's not, how it can be so easily violated and decertified. Yeah, decertified. You have to have water to have burnt animal sacrifices around the clock, folks. And you have to have cleansing water for the people that go up to the temple site, namely for the priests, but also for everyone else that goes up and brings the animals up there and benefits in that worshiping experience, the time of old. May the Mashiach come quickly. God bless you. I hope you enjoyed this video. There's more to come, surely, as I learn more. I'm not the authoritarian here, but I consider the peer-reviewed sources that I'm using to report this information as authoritative. You can research it yourself. Take care, and Shalom Aleichem.